morning, my friends, and happy Thursday. TGIT. That's what I tell Elaine every Thursday. Isn't that clever of me? Who did I miss at the pre-party? Sometimes we start chatting at like 6:30 in the morning. Wendy's in here, True Crime Beat. Hello, Deborah. Teddy Bird, Leo, Bama. I saw Pat. Wendy said she's walking. Where are you walking? Well, you can't get a speeding ticket if you're walking. Nani, Peach State Mama, Extra AF. Check out the community tab for members, please. I posted a picture of Extra AF's grandson. He could be a baby model. I'm serious. Hello, Connie Branch. How are you? Connie said, good morning. In all the amazing mods. Absolutely. I hope everyone is having a blessed day. I hit the wrong thing on the poll. I meant to hit he had accomplices. You're okay. Don't worry about the poll. I can't see the poll because I'm in StreamYard. So keep me updated. Hello, Teddy Bear. Walking Dead. Woo, the gang's all piling in. Hello, Alicia. Sailor. Karma. We got two Karmas. Karma is going to be coming after some people. Because it's horrible to think what Abby and Libby went through on a nice day in February when they just wanted to go on a hike. That's it. That's it. I want to clear some things up. Okay, we did a show yesterday about Delphi, and yes, we're doing one today. Normally, we don't do the back-to-backs. But you guys had a lot to say. I had a lot of emails, had a lot of comments, I had a lot of messages. So the conversation obviously isn't over. And overnight, more came out because Vinny is probably going to lose it. But he had the murder sheet on Court TV. So we're going to go through that. I see a lot of people are dealing with allergies. I am too. I took some... it's just kind of an off-brand Walgreens cough medicine yesterday. Woo! Woo! Something else. I'm afraid to drive today. And I want to also clear something up. I was not trying to defend Richard. Please don't think that. I'm 100% behind law enforcement. I believe he is definitely involved. But I want them all. Anyone that's involved. Even if they just knew about it. I want them all. These girls did not deserve it. Love you, Chloe. A-Wolf said it's the ragweed in Texas. Walking Dead's mom had the flu. Yes, Alicia. She said, my goodness, the pics and videos I took at the bridge a few months ago are even creepier now. I was going to ask if it's okay if I share those because I was going back through them yesterday after the show and got a pit in my stomach, you know? 7 Alibis also, that's her screen name. She was out there, I'd say about a year ago, and we did a show and shared them. And now with everything that's coming out, it's just... I don't have the adjective. By the way, thank you to Kat for the thumbnail. She does excellent work. What is really crazy about this is that there is a gag order. There is a gag order. The families are not talking. No one's supposed to really talk. Well, I mean, we're okay. So this huge document drop was a boo-boo on purpose, in my opinion. Just like about a year and a half ago, when that huge document drop came out and the murder sheet got it and put it on their channel. I believe that was a boo-boo on purpose. We all make mistakes, right? Hello, Laverne. Let's take a second and welcome each other. Say hello, hi, howdy, how are you? Spread some positivity and some love because we are all friends here. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad you guys are all here. Crime Story Diva said she visited Delphi over the summer. Phew. DT Driver and I were coming through that way one day, and I saw the Delphi exit sign, and just something really came over me. It was, it's something I can't explain. Thinking about what those poor girls went through and just the fear. It's horrible. Horrible. First, let's go through the timeline, and then I want to go through some of your comments. So you have to look at the screen on this one because there's really nobody talking, but it's very important. This timeline is extremely important. So much to process. And even after all they have done, there are still people that are hating on these families, and I will never understand that. Trust me, there are families out there that deserve to be hated on. But certainly not the families of Libby and Abby. Let's get to your comments, and then we have some stuff to talk about. I'm going to put the link up. I know Alicia said she's at work, but I would love to talk to her. We can do it on a weekend sometime, Alicia, about your trip to Delphi. Crime Story Diva, I would love for you to come up. Really, anybody that wants to come up and tell me what you think. Because I know it's a very divided thing. Some people are like, no, Richard did it himself. That's it. Shut up. Then there's people saying there's got to be more people involved. Let's get to your comments. Woo! Red Charm said, and I love that name. Red's my favorite color, or one of them. Red Charm said, I have a feeling this case will be taking many more twists and turns before we get to the truth. This case has always been complicated. I couldn't agree more. I think old Richard was the tip of the iceberg, my friends. Lone Wolf said yesterday, he said 2 cases were opened at once. You have the murders of Abby and Libby. He couldn't be more correct. Then you come across the CP with Kegan. So right there, it looks like, well, you know what it looked like because we all, at least me, thought Kegan and his crazy dad were involved. I still can't get it out of my mind, but we'll do a totally separate show about Kegan and his dad. Sarah said, I don't believe he acted alone. Saying he also had CP on his phone and that is the largest CP case they've seen. That says a lot. To say he's got connections with other sickos that helped hurt these girls isn't a far stretch. Joanne Evans said, I have always felt more than one person is involved, and as I'm listening to your broadcast, I get a sense of understanding for the first time since he said what Doug Carter meant by the tentacles of the investigation, with 2 different groups of men in 2 different towns involved in this group. Just imagine the connections some or all of the men had to law enforcement, business leaders, families, etc. in both towns. Who was talking, who was not talking, and more importantly, who was afraid to talk. Thank you for that comment. Sammy said, the defense doesn't have to solve a case. They need to cast doubt. Boom. Boom. And let's face it, they cast a lot of doubt. Let's look at part of the document drop that came out. Now, the link I put in yesterday was from my Google Drive, and for whatever reason, it expired. So I'm going to put this one up. This is a PDF. If you need it, I can email it to you. I can put it in the Facebook group, whatever you want to do. It says, at least up until the time of this filing, the prosecution has provided no evidence whatsoever of the findings of the FBI's BAU unit concerning involvement of Odinists in the murders. None. The letter that Click sent to McClelland was the first that the defense has heard that the FBI actually believed that Odinists were likely involved. In other words, this report contained exculpatory evidence that unified command concealed from this defense. This information was and is crucial for Richard Allen's defense. Again, I'm not here to defend Richard. He's obviously got some public defenders that didn't come to play. Some of this exculpatory evidence in the form of videos, was finally released to the defense on September 8th, 2023, over 9 months after defense counsel entered their appearance. The defense is still reviewing this September 8th evidence dump. In the brief time the defense has had to review this newly received evidence, it has found exculpatory evidence both in the videos the defense has watched and the documents that the defense has reviewed. While the prosecution has been holding on to this exculpatory evidence, Richard Allen has been living in hell. Okay, I still believe that Richard is involved. I'm sure Richard is in hell because, again, unless you're Martha Stewart, when you go to the pokey, they don't treat you that good. All right? You get 3 hots in a cot if you're lucky. That's it. Now, I'm surprised he's not getting better treatment considering the high profile of this case. I really am surprised, but never know. Okay, a few years ago, Doug Carter said they are one piece away from solving the case. Now, mind you, that was years ago. Toodles said this case has me crazy. Me too. Could you imagine what the families are going through?
Indiana State Police will not hold a news conference today on the 3-year anniversary of the Delphi double homicides. That's different from the previous 2 years. So where is the investigation now? And is this a cold case? We took those questions directly to the state's top cop.
But we're still as energized now as we were the day after.
No one questions Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter's passion to solve the Delphi double homicide case. Every time he talks about it, you can see it in his eyes.
It's easy to throw around the cold case idea. Nah, we're not even close to that.
3 years.
I loved when he said that because people said, this is a cold case. Nothing's going on. Nothing's going to happen. They're not doing anything with the case. You know, you can grow a garden on that file. Then here would come the top cop in Indiana saying, no, you have no idea. You have no idea how much work we're doing on this.
Years after the homicides, police are continuing to keep what they know close. We asked, but Carter couldn't answer.
What we know is what we know, and we're not ready to talk about that yet.
How close are you right now to getting this solved?
One piece away.
That's a bold statement. How close are you to solving this? One piece away. One piece away.
One piece away. Eventually somebody's going to do the right thing. Might be the killer himself. Might be somebody that knows who he is.
2 investigators still work full-time on the case from the Delphi City building. The ISP Laboratory Division, Intelligence Team, and Fusion Center are still combing through the now 50,000 tips.
When we're done with all we
50,000 tips. There's not even 50,000 people in Delphi.
yeah, we start over. Again, I think I got 18 tips yesterday. Just me here at my desk.
It's easy to be our own detectives and criticize the actual ones, but Carter says they accept that pressure.
And I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of them. We can't talk about what we think. Everybody else can. Or
This is such we got to hear that again. I'm going to say this right now. You couldn't pay me enough to be a police officer. You couldn't pay me enough to be an investigator. You couldn't. There wouldn't be enough money in the world that I would take that position. No. No way.
think everybody else can, or what they believe happened.
He said everybody else can talk about what they think. You know, their theories. We can have discussions all day, and we do. He said, but we can't.
We can't. There's been some criticism of me, and I'm willing to take that. I can't explain all the things that I know.
That's because only police and the killer know.
He has no idea what we know, but one day he will.
This is a different type of case because police have almost everything they need.
I can't think of a time in my entire career or in many other careers that we have the voice of the person we believe is the killer, a photograph of who we believe is connected to the murders, and even a snippet of how he moves.
Carter says more information could be released in the future, but for now, this is what we're getting, and he thinks it's enough.
Somebody knows.
He cautions you to remember the two sketches are not photographs.
I believe that eventually we're going to be able to say, this person's the killer, and there's a combination of those two images that'll land on his face, whatever that might look like.
Carter, this is one of his priorities in life. Even if it takes another year, he's going to get this solved.
If we hit year 4, I hope we're sitting here again. But we will do everything within our power and within the parameters of law to find the individual that did this to Abby and Libby.
A memorial service is being planned at Delphi United Methodist Church tonight from 5 to 7. They're taking donations for food and pet supply.
Snow said, whoa, this is nuts. It is. It's demonic. It's sick. And I have never believed that one person did this. Even when they brought in old Richard, I was like, okay, where's the rest? It's not just my thoughts. It's their thoughts. Because when Doug said this, I put it on the screen yesterday, you're going to see it again. Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter, in an interview with iTeam8, said his agency is still looking for others. They're not going to be looking for others if they think Richard did alone. Then this was emailed to me yesterday. One of the people named in the document dump we got this week. This is from an interview. The document infers there is a correlation between Brad and at least 4 other suspects. Elvis Fields from Rushville. I keep hearing about Rushville. Ooh, CR, thank you. CR's gifting memberships. Get your umbrellas. Jinbug was gifted a membership. Julie. Alicia. Thank you, Carla is. Thank you, CR. CR is also my Avon lady. It says the document infers there is a correlation between Brad and at least 4 other suspects. Elvis Fields from Rushville. Patrick Westfall from Delphi. Johnny Messer from Rushville, and Rod Adams from Rushville. I keep hearing about Rushville. But it's not the first time we've heard about Rushville. We heard about Rushville years ago, and it just kind of petered out. Elvis apparently told his sister that he was involved in the murders. He gave her details about the crime scene and said he was now part of a gang. Elvis was questioned by police in 2018. After police were finished with him, he asked a state trooper if his spit had been found on the girls and said that he could explain it. Why would you ask a state trooper if your spit was found on Abby or Libby and say, oh, by the way, if you find my spit, if you find my loogie, give me a call, I can explain it. Elvis told a second sister that he was on the trail and bridge with the 2 girls and that he would be going away for a long time. As for Patrick Westfall, he was very close friends with Brad and the others. We got to get some more information on Elvis. Sinclair said his sister passed a lie detector stating she wasn't lying. Yeah. Who the hell? That's so weird. It's a weird thing to say. Well, it's not weird. Shows he was, he knows a lot about it. And when these people know a lot about a crime scene, they're obviously somewhere involved. Thank you, Lisa, for the super sticker. You are too kind to me. I love you. Thank you, Lisa. All right. Let's get to it. Vinny had the murder sheet on last night. Yesterday I said, where in the hell is the murder sheet? They got a hold of a crazy document dump about 1.5 years ago. Well, they're speaking now. Christina said he wanted to be part of the gang to belong, but he was just there, in my humble opinion. Well, he was there. You're exactly right. According to him. The spit comment, I don't get.
Teenagers Abby Williams and Libby German were best friends living in the small rural community of Delphi, Indiana, a town with just 3,000 residents. On February 13th, 2017, the girls had a day off from school and the weather was very mild for winter. So they decided to go on an outdoor adventure. They were dropped off near the Monon High Bridge, a beautiful wooded area with a river and an old-fashioned planked bridge. While on that bridge, Libby...
The bridge itself has always scared me. Now, they've renovated the bridge. I'll find a picture and show it to you. They've renovated it. It actually looks safe now.
recorded a man with her phone. That same man was also recorded by Libby uttering the words, "down the hill." It was down the hill where Libby and Abby would be murdered. Prosecutors say the man on the bridge is responsible, and that man is Richard Allen. But Allen and his attorneys say prosecutors haven't.
Okay, what's up with growing the beards after the murders? Now, I had some comments saying that Brad had a full beard at the time of the murders. Okay, let's look at it. Okay, there's Richard with the flyer behind him. Now, this is Brad in 2018. The pictures that I saw on Brad's Facebook, which is very open from the time of the murders, he was shaven. So if you have more information, let me know, because we want the right information.
But all wrong. They say Allen is innocent, and investigators did not follow the evidence that leads to somewhere else. A group of white nationalists who practice the ancient Nordic religion of Odinism. They also allege that 3 of the investigators on the case also believe this was a ritualistic killing, evidence that was concealed, suppressed, and not revealed to the judge. Tonight, we take a closer look at what those 3 investigators are saying and look at the evidence the defense says was hidden as we continue to investigate the Delphi murders.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Our investigation continues tonight into the Delphi murders. So much information was released this week, and each night we're going through more and more of it.
It's a lot to go through. Now, from the news articles, the news clips I put up yesterday, they're obviously inferring that other people are involved. A few people corrected me and said, no. They said those documents are saying that Richard's not involved at all. I'm not getting that, but obviously my legalese isn't up with like some of you. There's no way Richard can't be involved. Again, I'm not here to defend Richard. I stand behind Doug Carter. I stand behind the FBI, stand behind law enforcement, because I believe Richard is involved.
Tonight is going to be...
Vinny has been so invested in this case. God bless him. And you know that when these documents came out,
I think, eye-opening and fascinating in looking at what the defense is alleging here. But let's start. I mean, Abby and Libby, these 2 young girls, best friends. Best friends. So understand that relationship, right? And go back in your minds when you're growing up and you've got your friends and you do things together. And I remember growing up taking hikes all the time, whether it was 2 of us or 8 of us. You know, we would just head out into the woods, you know, looking for that waterfall or wherever we were going to go. And we'd be gone for hours and hours. Our parents didn't worry. And then we came home, right? And that's what was happening that day and should have happened that day. But we know it was much worse. It was evil. I mean, this was also a bizarre crime scene where these 2 young girls were murdered. What you're looking at is a graphic depiction that we put together based upon the descriptions in these papers that have been filed by the defense. And when you look at the covered in sticks and the way the bodies appear to perhaps be positioned, at least that's the allegation by the defense, that it was some sort of ritualistic thing that was going on here. It's not normal. Whatever it was, it just didn't seem normal. Not that any murder is normal, right? But there are murders where, okay, you find a body and the body, you know, the person is killed, the person is murdered, and they leave the body there. Here, it appears something else was done in this case. And if what the defense has filed with the court is exactly what the evidence shows, then you're talking about really bizarre, where they're taking the clothes from one of these girls and putting it on the other girl, and the other girl's naked, and all of it is bizarre and evil at the same time.
And at some point, both girls obviously had no clothes on because Abby was redressed in Libby's clothes.
Richard Allen, the accused in this case, is saying, not me. It's not me. This isn't a case of saying, well, you know, this happened and things got out of control. No, it's not me. I didn't do it. Couldn't be any clearer in what they are saying here. He did not do it. And it's not even a case where they're saying, well, there's not enough evidence to prove that he did it. They're actually saying he didn't do it and there is someone else responsible for all of this. Not just saying I didn't do it. No. I couldn't have done it because they did it. Talking about this group of alleged white nationalists who follow Odinism, this ancient Nordic religion, and that everything left at the crime scene was some sort of a sign.
Okay. I don't know Vinny's take on this at all. Because he really, sometimes he comes out with his theory if it's as, you know, broad as a barn. I just believe that Richard is definitely involved. The probable cause that the prosecution put out that we saw and we read on here back in November or December, I can't remember when we did the show. But with what these beautiful girls went through, considering the busyness of the, I'll say, park that day, the staging and everything, the timing, we know what time he left. We know what time he got there. I don't think he acted alone. And yes, he confessed to his wife that he was definitely involved.
And even to this day, as he sits behind bars, the guards at the prison where he is also follow this religion. And if this is true, this is beyond anything I've ever seen or heard. Beyond. But that's what they're alleging here. They're also alleging that the investigators, the prosecution.
I'm with Vinny. Vinny's been around since the Casey Anthony days. So when he says, this is beyond anything I've ever seen. This is beyond. You guys are true crime followers. Some of you have been around since the inception of the channel or even before when I just had Facebook groups. We've seen a lot. Have we ever seen anything like this? You may have to refresh my memory because I can't think of anything more.
Has concealed some of this evidence when, getting a search warrant, not revealing everything, changing little facts here and there, holding on to things that would be exculpatory in nature and not releasing it until they have to release it to the defense. Now that I've seen a lot in many cases, allegations of that in many cases. At the end of the day, this is going to be a trial in front of a jury, and whether or not the evidence was given over in time or not in time, everyone will have an opportunity to put all of this in front of a jury, which is what I want to do here tonight, is put in front of you the things that we are finding out that are being alleged in these papers. And we're going to begin with something that could be by itself reasonable doubt in this case. We're talking about 3 investigators who were working this case, who were going in a completely different direction and believe that it was this ritualistic killing. It was not Richard Allen. 3 investigators. Take a look. This is from the defense memorandum. Retired Rushville Assistant Police Chief Todd Click, Detective Kevin Murphy, and Detective Greg Ferenczi were 3 of the law enforcement officers who worked on the Delphi murder case, particularly focused on the Odinist angle as it intersected with suspects in Rushville, Indiana. After reading Richard Allen's probable cause affidavit, Click, remember, Assistant Police Chief Todd Click, became concerned that the information contained in Richard Allen's affidavit pointing the finger at Richard Allen was far less compelling than the totality of the information that Detective Ferenczi, Detective Murphy, and Officer Click had accumulated during the Rushville portion of the investigation. The information that Murphy...
Okay, this is very, very important because these investigators in Rushville, they were contacted. It's not like they just jumped in. This was already suspected, okay? Click, Murphy, and Ferenczi were 3 of the law enforcement officers who worked on the Delphi murder case, particularly focused on the Odinist angle as it intersected with suspects in Rushville. We've heard their names. After reading Richard Allen's probable cause affidavit, Click became concerned that the information contained in Richard Allen's affidavit pointing the finger at Richard was far less compelling than the totality of the information that Detective Ferenczi, Murphy, and Click had accumulated during the Rushville portion of the investigation. So these are actual sworn law enforcement officers that are saying, hold on. I dig it. I get it. But you're missing something.
Ferenczi and Click had gathered during their investigation connected men who practiced Odinism in or near Delphi with another group of men who lived in Rushville, and then connected both groups of men to the murders. This is pointing the finger at specific people, okay? Through the investigation of law enforcement, not the defense doing their own investigation. This is through the investigation of law enforcement. Click was concerned that for some reason...
Okay, this is really important. Now I go back to a comment that I read earlier. The defense doesn't have to prove anything. All they have to do is create doubt. That's all they have to do. The state has all the work to do. Not that the defense doesn't have a lot of work to do. But they're not just throwing out their own theory. They're saying this law enforcement agency believes these people are involved.
Reason the leadership of the investigative team had failed to share with Prosecutor McClelland the evidence gathered by Click, Ferenczi, and Murphy. Click's concerns led him to seek out a lawyer to assist him in the drafting of a letter. This letter was then sent to McClelland. This is big stuff, okay? So let's bring in the heavy hitters joining us tonight in Indianapolis, Indiana. We go to them all the time on this story, have been doing it for years now.
The murder sheet, they got a hold of the last document dump, which in my opinion, just my opinion, was what I call a boo-boo on purpose. They exposed it. In that document dump is where we saw this conversation where it says, Bud, from your Dropbox account off your phone, we have started one of the largest CP investigations ever undertaken in the state of Indiana. And there was much more.
The hosts of the Murder Sheet podcast. Make sure you download the latest episode. Anya Kane and Kevin Greenlee are with us. Great to see you both tonight. First, briefly though, because I want to get into the content here. Just your reaction to generally to all these things that came out in these 130 some odd pages, what the defense filed.
It's absolutely fascinating to see the defense lay out its case for the murders. And it's so disturbing to hear more about the homicides themselves and the crime scene. It's just heartbreaking to think about what those girls went through.
I couldn't agree with her more. The defense putting out, well, I shouldn't even say their theory, because other law enforcement back this up. We know that one got his own attorney to draft a letter to get to the DA. But when they put out the particulars of the crime scene, see, that has been heavily guarded for years. That was a real punch in the gut, what those girls went through.
For the murders. And it's so disturbing to hear more about the homicides themselves and the crime scene. It's just heartbreaking to think about what those girls went through.
And these details that we're getting are really for the first time, right? I mean, you've been trying for years, but you know, it is what it is. Things have been sealed. Things have not been revealed. So if we take them at their word in what they put in their memorandum, this is earth-shattering stuff. So let's start first with this Odinist angle and the fact that there are apparently these 3 investigators who thought they were putting things together.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is very interesting to see some factions is sort of forming within law enforcement here. You have people, you know, obviously the official investigation is saying they believe Richard Allen does it, but these 3 investigators may have been sort of offshoots. And I think one thing that we're really curious to know is the allegation that law enforcement sort of wrongfully rejected this theory, is there any weight to that? Is that something where maybe they should have looked into it more? Or is this a situation where you had people become emotionally invested in their own theory and sort of didn't let it go, even if they weren't able to get to like probable cause? So it kind of leads to a couple of different possibilities. It's sort of fascinating, but it kind of gives you a sense of like, there were a lot of directions that we probably haven't even heard about yet as far as the investigation.
So the concept of Odinism and this Odinist angle that the defense is talking about, before these papers were filed, did you hear rumors of that? Was there any indication that this could have been a ritualistic sacrifice?
Yes, there were all sorts of rumors behind the scenes.
Yes. If I heard the rumors, you know they all heard the rumors. The first time I told my husband about this case, I said, they think it could be some sort of a cult type of thing. On top of that, you have the CP ring. So yes.
Abilities is sort of fascinating, but it kind of gives you a sense of like, there were a lot of directions that we probably haven't even heard about yet as far as the investigation.
So the concept of Odinism and this Odinist angle that the defense is talking about, before these papers were filed, did you hear rumors of that? Was there any indication that this could have been a ritualistic sacrifice?
Yes, there were all sorts of rumors behind the scenes and whispers behind the scenes. that there was some sort of Odinistic angle or runes left at the crime scene. We've never been able to 100% confirm those, so we never reported those. And of course, in this case, it's been plagued by all sorts of rumors from the very beginning.
So, because you're out there, is there any other indication that Odinists are sacrificing people anywhere else? Or would this be the only criminal homicide that has potentially, again, potentially, it's what the defense is saying, a connection to Odinism?
That is such a good question, because that's the first thing we always do. Like, is this crime like any other crimes? And I can't say that we've officially dived into that research project yet, but we're trying very much to find potentially other Odinistic crimes, Odinistic murders of children specifically, and then also maybe other cults that, maybe could be comparable, I guess. But I would say generally our perception is that this sort of ritualistic sacrificial murder is not necessarily a prevalent thing here in Indiana.
And, the nature of it, I would think that if there was a murder like that, that it maybe would make the news and people would kind of know about it. But, some cases, I guess, a little more under the radar, maybe things aren't released publicly. Like in this case, we didn't know. We had no idea that what the scene looked like. So let me put up something else from this defense memorandum. Not only did the prosecution withhold that letter, and they're talking again about the letter from Assistant Police Chief Todd Click, from the defense, but law enforcement also withheld several other exculpatory pieces of evidence, including an 85-page compilation of reports by Click prepared in 2019 and several videos containing statements that support the defense theory of Richard Allen's innocence. This 85-page.
I'm very interested in the videos they're talking about. Extremely. What videos are there? Let's also not forget that some of the evidence that was taken out of Richard's home was flash photography items in the shed. It's always been a theory of mine, when Kegan and his daddy ran off to Vegas, it could have been to sell something that only perverts would want to watch.
Page report detailed the investigative work performed by Click, Forensi, Murphy, and others, including the FBI. Then I want to get to this. According to the summary of Click's investigation that he attached with his letter, the Behavioral Analysis Unit, BAU, of the FBI determined that the individual or individuals responsible for the homicides were involved in Nordic beliefs. What are your thoughts about all of that?
Yeah, it's interesting. My initial question would be, would the BAU back that up at this point? It's a little surprising to hear like the surety of the language there, that they confirmed that the people involved had Nordic beliefs, because I feel like you always have to put in the possibility of someone attempting to stage a scene and make it look like something it's not, right? So I don't know, but it's fascinating. And it also throws in the FBI, which of course came into this case very early on and then sort of has seemingly left it these days. So is not necessarily super involved anymore. So kind of also underscores that maybe there was some factionalism even between sort of local, state, and federal authorities.
So what questions has all of this now raised to you, now that you've gone through all of these pages and come across things that have been released for the very first time?
By the way, people with Nordic beliefs, big beards, they go to the axe throwing place, all that stuff, doesn't mean that they're going to do anything like this. Alice, welcome to the family. Let's have a big welcome to our friend Alice. She just joined members. She's going to love the members show this weekend because we got a lot to talk about. welcome or welcome back. Glad you're here.
The big thing on my mind is these allegations that the defense made are incredibly serious. And so the question on my mind is there anything to these allegations? I am really interested in hearing how the prosecution responds to this. Did they, in fact, withhold exculpatory material from the defense? If so, that would be very, very serious. If they have an explanation, I think we'd all like to hear it.
Are there other questions about Richard Allen that this raised for you? Because part of this memo, there's, I think, several goals that they had in the way they laid it all out. And one big one that we talked about a little bit last night was that one person could not have done all of this. What are your thoughts about the way they describe all that and the scene where Abby and Libby were found?
Yeah, I thought the defense did a good job of kind of crafting this narrative. And I know for our listeners, we've already gotten a ton of emails about this and people sort of saying, wow, you know, it seems to have caught people's interest in a big way. And I would say, I think it's going to be a battle of the narratives. I think you're going to have the prosecution saying, this is an ordinary guy, and then he does this, and it was heinous, and, you know, why doesn't necessarily matter. Sometimes people just go out and do these things. And the defense is going to be crafting something about more of a wide-ranging conspiracy involving Odinists who have infiltrated prison and also, you know, were involved in these child murders. And so you're going to have the sort of ordinary versus the extraordinary. And it's going to be interesting to see which one carries the day with the jury, because we've interviewed people who knew Richard Allen and who, you know, grew up with him. And by all accounts, he was a very normal guy. So there's not really that kind of salacious aspect that you have in sort of an Odinistic cult. So I just sort of think we're seeing the sides form right now.
Now, all of us who've been following the story and covering the story, there's a series now of I wouldn't call them suspects, but people who, okay, are they connected? Are they connected? Including the Anthony Shots social media stuff. How does what we learned here, how does it change, alter, or perhaps supplement, you know, everything else that we've learned?
I think one thing it does is it shows that these investigators never had blinders on. They looked at a wide variety of leads and they pursued them to the best of their abilities. They had officers trying to run down this Odinist stuff. They had officers trying to run down Anthony Shots. They had officers trying to run down Chadwell and some of the other suspects over the years. And ultimately, they ended up, the only person they could make a probable cause case against was Richard Allen. And so they arrested him.
And you know what's fascinating about this story and why I think it's going to be a difficult case for prosecutors is I speak to people who have been there, have done like you, and who have done podcasts and things, and people tell me, and I always ask them, well, you know,
I'm so glad that he said that because it's never gotten out of my mind. Even before we knew the details about the crime scene, which gave me nightmares, I thought, this couldn't have been one person. This couldn't have been one person. We already knew about Kegan. We knew about his goofy dad. We knew about the Anthony Shots profile. We knew about all that. It can't be one person, in my opinion.
I can ask them on the air, but I'll ask them sometimes, well, who do you think did it? And you get different answers from different people who have studied all this. I've never seen anything like this where, you know, people who are, you know, really involved in it can look at this and say, oh no, it's this person. Oh no, it's this person. But I don't know if anyone's convinced that any of them, I don't think they're convinced beyond a reasonable doubt on any of them. And then Richard Allen is the one who like came out of nowhere.
In many ways, he's the most boring suspect.
What a great description, Kevin. Like this guy, there's nothing to it. There's no computer searches. There's just a bullet.
Yeah, you look at some of the other suspects, they have a history of violence. They have histories of child sexual abuse materials. This guy just was a regular working Joe who every day went to work at the CVS at the pharmacy, didn't cause any trouble at all. So as Anya says, he's the dullest of the suspects, probably.
Unbelievable developments. Anya Kane, Kevin Greenlee, folks, listen to it after my show, right? You can download it now, but listen after the show.
Yeah, the murder sheet has a lot of information. A lot. How's the poll looking, guys? Because again, I can't see it from StreamYard. Some people say, no, look, he could have just done this by himself. What I read particularly about Libby took more time than what Richard would have had out there. Okay? You guys know how I'm about time. I don't want to be too graphic because in case one of the family members listens to this, I just don't see it being one person. Let's go to the press conference they gave after the arrest of Richard, and they assured the public that they are not done. They are not done with this investigation.
Today is different because I do not want there to be any confusion or ambiguity with what I will say. Today is not a day to celebrate, but the arrest of Richard M. Allen of Delphi on 2 counts of murder is sure a major step in leading to the conclusion of this long-term and complex investigation.
Okay, listen to his words carefully. This is one step towards the conclusion of a very complicated investigation. Listen to what he says.
Today is not a day to celebrate, but the arrest of Richard M. Allen of Delphi on 2 counts of murder is sure a major step in leading to the conclusion of this long-term and complex investigation. First, I'd like to speak directly to Anna, Mike, Becky, Kelsey, your extended families, along with the entire Delphi community that certainly has grown and now includes our nation and even many countries around the world. I am proud to report to you that today, actually last Friday, was the day. And an arrest has been made. Thanks to literally hundreds of media outlets that have been steadfast in reporting and keeping the memories of Abby and Libby front and center. Many of you in the room have developed relationships with me personally, and you know I always have a personal perspective, and today's no different. But from a very personal perspective, you all have provided inspiration and support, even while oftentimes frustrated with us and me. You continue to encourage the efforts, and you too believe that one day we would all be here participating and sharing this news. To the entire law enforcement community, which includes all local, state, and federal agencies, which are far too many to specifically mention today, thank you, thank you, thank you. We are going to continue a very methodical and committed approach to ensure that if any other person had any involvement in these murders in any way, that person or persons will be held accountable.
Okay, he's still looking around the room. He's still looking around the room. We're going to take a very methodical approach. And if anyone else is involved, I'm going to paraphrase, in any way, persons, they will be held accountable. He already said this is a very complex investigation. He said it's going to haunt him for the rest of his life. Not just Doug, but other seasoned law enforcement said they were not prepared for what they saw. And they have seen a lot of crime scenes.
Since the murders of Abby and Libby 2,086 days ago, the daily investigative team has worked tirelessly and is certainly worthy of mention today. Specifically, Sheriff Linsonby, the Sheriff of Carroll County, Detectives Tony Liggett, Detective retired Kevin Hammond, former Delphi Chief and now the prosecutor's investigator Steve Mullins, State Police First Sergeant Jerry Holman, Detectives Jay Harper.
Okay, he's going to go through and thank people who have worked very hard. And Annette, I'm going to actually share this article in Discord. We have a room for Abby and Libby, and in the Facebook group, because there were, Annette said the next town over found a box of animal parts that was indicating animal sacrifice. Yes, I heard that myself. And I have 2 articles surrounding towns where they had seen animals that looked like they were part of a sacrifice. That is no coincidence, in my opinion. Stacy, thank you for the super sticker. Said, I'm always listening. Brooks and chat are the best. Best community, best peeps on the streets. So keep that under your hat.
Dave Vito and Brian Harshman, along with members of the United States Marshal Service, specifically Agent Jeremy Clinton and Agent Bill Culfers. With them today is Dan McClain, the U.S. Marshal, appointed U.S. Marshal. Our state police analyst, our scientist from many different disciplines within our laboratory division, Mrs. Kathy Shank, for your incredible dedication to detail. While I know you are all expecting final details today concerning this arrest, today is not that day. Today's not that day. This investigation is far from complete, and we will not jeopardize its integrity by releasing or discussing documents or information before the appropriate time.
Okay, and they kept that probable cause sealed. No one's going to see it. It's very rare in a case, high profile or not. We've been seeing it a lot in Oklahoma. One is Athena Brownfield. They're keeping everything sealed. Okay, Libby's grandma, as people were pressing them, the media, people were getting attorneys saying, we want to see the probable cause. The families themselves said, don't do it. Don't put it out. Okay, there is a gag order. And again, this is just my opinion. I think this document dump we had earlier in the week was a boo-boo on purpose.
Prosecutor Nick McClellan, of course, will share additional information about what we can and cannot say, and also explain to you why the probable cause affidavit is temporarily sealed by the court and not available. And by the way, he has been a tremendous asset to this team. I'm yet again asking you for your patience and please your understanding while our system of due process works. Also remember that all persons arrested are presumed innocent. All persons arrested are presumed innocent. You all will have an innate desire to subjectively interpret and then report what you think. We in the law enforcement realm cannot, and you should never allow us to, talk about what we think concerning facts, but rather discuss and share at the right time what it is we know. The time will come when additional details can be released. But again, today is not that day. It's about Abby and Libby, their families, and this community, this nation, and even our planet. The prosecutor has been very clear with law enforcement about what his expectations are, about what can and cannot be released, shared, or discussed. So we will, of course, comply. If you choose to be critical of our silence, be critical of me, not the front line. These are the folks that have committed their entire lives to a successful conclusion. In other words, a guilty verdict. As we move to the next phase of this investigation, I will continue to offer all resources that the ISP has to not only the investigative team I anticipate growing, but also to Prosecutor McClellan as we prepare for the coming months. Again, Nick has been very resolute and very clear, and I'm most grateful for his leadership. And it's going to be really important as we move forward. Please continue offering tips that you would like to share. The many avenues to report will remain open and will be available to all. Please continue doing that. In closing, I stand before you in this church and very place where we held our first briefing nearly 6 years ago, and just hours after the murders of Abby and Libby. Right here. Pulling in today, I wasn't really sure what emotion I would experience. But peace came over me. And I didn't expect that to happen. And I hope all of you, with all the different responsibilities you have from around the planet today, have felt some of that as well. But remember, we're not done. I think what we all have experienced proves that together there's nothing we cannot do. But more importantly, giving of ourselves, all of us, giving of ourselves matters more than what we could ever receive. Abby and Libby, though in death, have had a profound effect on so many of us, on how we live, and as importantly, who we all should be. I would now like to introduce to you my friend and the Carroll County Sheriff, Tom Ledsby, for his remarks.
If you study the
So in a nutshell, he said, we're going to continue this investigation. It's going to be methodical. We're not done, not even close to done. This is the first step. How much more can these families go through? Pat said, thank you, Brooks. Thank you, Pat. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Thank you. Thank you. Imagine the look on their faces when they found out that the first person to be arrested was someone that probably filled their prescriptions, checked them out at the CVS, printed flyers for them and said, oh, no, don't worry about it. Printed out funeral pictures for them. He prided himself on keeping the flyer posted at CVS. Prided himself. It was rumored that this could possibly be him. This is from 2018. Someone took this picture and said this dude was apparently lurking around the press conference. Looks a lot like Richard to me.
A lot of people will have been reading about this, have read about it over the last 5 years, but to you, to all of you, this was more than just someone you're reading about as a family member and her friend. So if you could just describe for those out there, this is the type of pain that hurts.
It hurts. We're real people. It's real lives. Some people forget that they are reading, and it becomes entertainment. It becomes a game to some, and they just forget that it's real people living a real nightmare.
We've heard that from so many victims' families, and another reason why I love you guys to pieces, because even though there are things that, you know, we have to keep it as light as possible because we're talking about the worst of the worst. We're talking about the worst that Satan can deliver to the earth. Okay, we are. I can't sugarcoat it. We're talking about the worst. Like I said, hats off to you guys. Props. Because you guys always understand that behind what we talk about are real people. Superhero Loves Akita said, is that Brooks sniffling? Yes, Brooks has got a cold. You should have seen me yesterday. I got a hold of some cough medicine. Whew, I was bouncing off the walls.
How disheartening is it that this appears a person from this community who maybe worked here, who it's a small, tight-knit town, and here we are, possibly a neighbor, you know, someone who's familiar with Delphi may be responsible for this, police say.
Yeah, it's a little disheartening that a member of our community could do this. Somebody with, you know, can do this to somebody within their own community, or just do this, period. But can never judge a book by its cover, you know. I don't know what makes people do stuff like this. You know, this happens all over the world, not just in our case, but there's a lot of people out there who suffer from stuff like this, right? Very similar situations. I don't know why I don't know how can't program my mind to think like that. You know, it's hard. How can somebody do that and then just go on living life like nothing happened? I don't understand. Probably never will understand that.
Most people have grown up here in Carroll County, have lived here their whole lives. It's a small community, and we've always felt like it's one neighborhood. And
okay, let's talk about this. This is just speculation, just a theory. It's been said over and over they were intimidated by a pew-pew, a G-U-N. How do we know that somebody that they didn't recognize wasn't out there? If Abby's boyfriend's dad was out there, would they not be more trusting? Just think about that.
for it to be one of us, it's hard.
I think I've always said since the beginning that it had to be somebody that knew the area, and so I don't think it surprised me as much. But it's definitely hard and sad to know that he was right here among us. I don't think we wanted to believe it, but yeah, we know it is now.
Hi.
Horrible. Horrible. I've heard that Abby never met the father. I've heard that Abby knew the father. You know how the internet works, my friends. You know how it works. Tiffany said if the state has been withholding this, they're going to be in big trouble. Well, they sent everything to the defense. As we read in the documents, they got it like 9 months later, and they're putting it out. They're putting it out. A lot of people have been asking about Kegan. What happened to old Kegan? Nasty ass Kegan. Well, he's still a nasty ass. He even flipped off the cameras. Look at this. Yep, he came down, he saw the cameras and flipped the bird. Flipped the bird. Classy dude. Who is sending him money in jail? Okay. No, I'm not body shaming. I've got a lot of those comments saying, I'm so sick of her body shaming. No, it's a damn question about metabolism. Who the hell is sending him money? Because that's a lot of ramen. That's a lot of beefaroni in that gut. Pretending to be Anthony Schatz, as we know. Not body shaming, but I have a feeling had he used his real face, real body, the whole 9 yards, they'd have been like, no, thank you. He did a lot of nasty stuff. I really don't want to get into hot water with YouTube, but let me tell you, we need to do a full show about old Kegan, because he is one nasty tub of fucking lard. Yeah, he flipped the bird. He just flipped the bird to everybody. No apologies for what he's done, luring Abby and Libby out to the Monon Bridge and everything else he's done. But to understand Kegan, you would have to understand his father. And that's a totally separate show.
Soon be on his way to the State Department of Corrections for classification and assignment to a prison for the next several decades of his life. In Miami County, Russ McQueen.
That's going to be one show where I'm telling you, when we talk about Kegan and Tony, don't eat breakfast before. Don't eat breakfast before. This is the real Anthony. This is the profile he used.
A lot recently. An update now. That fake social media profile shared by detectives investigating the murder of 2 young girls in Delphi. Well, now for the very first time, we're hearing from the man whose pictures were stolen and used by that Anthony Schatz profile. Our Jenny Runovich talked with the former model and now current police officer in Alaska, who frankly was pretty shocked to see his face connected to this investigation in Indiana.
More hurt, more pain. This man's a police officer in Alaska. To think somebody is using his face to lure these young girls. Remember, Kegan was telling all these girls that was him and that he was a rich playboy.
Vincent Kowalski, a police officer in Alaska, found himself in the middle of a murder investigation here in Indiana this month. His photos when he was a model after high school, stolen and used, police say, by a man accused of catfishing young girls. The fake Anthony Schatz account also caught the attention of detectives investigating the Delphi murders. Kowalski says he found out about the investigation when an Instagram follower sent him a link to a press release with his face front and center.
Just seeing your face blasted all over the news was crazy.
Kowalski, who still values fitness to work as a police officer, no longer models on Instagram. He's now a father of 2 girls. So the association with a child exploitation case and a murder investigation of 2 teens is especially troubling.
I got a young daughter, about 1 year and 4 months old, and my other daughter is 10, so she's coming up on the social media age, soliciting videos from young girls. Like, that's disgusting, and it makes me sick. But to know that 2 young girls possibly lost their life because of my picture, it's the worst of the worst.
Think about that. He was a model. Kegan got all his pictures and was using them to solicit these girls. Not just Abby and Libby. He has other victims. Hello, Trev. How are you? Now, a channel that I absolutely love is Cop Facts. He was really upset, and I would love to have him on the show. He was really upset by the last document dump, and I bet his ass is burning now. He is former law enforcement, and he knows that putting out information, while it soothes the public for a little bit, but we get on with our day. He's adamant about never putting out information that lets criminals know what investigators are doing. He was very upset at the last document drop. Listen to what he had to say. He reminds me of Clint Eastwood. If he was on the show, I would ask him to say, "Make my day."
To the murder sheet, who may be in this room, think about the word deplorable. Someone you regard with contempt, disdain, disgusting.
Okay, he doesn't mince words. Okay? He doesn't mince words. He was furious when the murder sheet put all this out. I personally have no problem with them because, as you know, I'm very invested in this case. He was furious about it.
Those are words that come to mind, definitions that come to mind. You've broken someone's trust for your own gain. You know, there's plenty of others who know way more than you do, but they're silent. That's called character. I want to thank Kristen from Behind the Crime Door, Steve from True Crime Web, two people I caught last night who condemned what you've done, and many others probably that I didn't catch. You should be ashamed. You've jeopardized this case. You've messed up the timeline for law enforcement. You've put people in danger. You've put KK in danger. You've put law enforcement in danger. You've probably tainted a potential jury. Character. Yours has been damaged. And it's deserved. I hope you got all the views you wanted. You know, there's a way that you can tell when it's really cold outside. You don't need a weatherman. But you can tell it's really cold outside when you see an attorney walking down the street with their hands in their own pockets.
Yeah, he was pissed. You can tell when it's really cold outside because you see attorneys with hands in their own pockets. I really like him. He spits it like it is. This is his opinion. He's allowed to use the internet, just like I am, just like you guys are. Snow said, who is he talking to? He was mad at the murder sheet. Coco said, I'm beginning to think Kagan set the meet up. I've always thought that myself, but again, that's just my opinion. It's just my opinion. I would love to take that transcript from Cop Facts and have Prayer Garden read it. Could you imagine? The words he said, deplorable. I hope you liked it. Character. She'd be like, right? I woke up this morning and I don't know why I had YouTube going and Prayer Garden was going. I told you guys over the weekend. My husband kept saying, right, right. And I'm like, oh, shit, because I had Prayer Garden on last night. How about some positivity? This has been a really hard case to go through. Well, every time we talk about it. Yesterday, today, how about some positivity to end the show? Anyone up for that? I am. Sort of in the spirit of the show. I hate to say the word spirit. This is a demonic dog at a shelter that many people wanted to adopt. Kind of reminds me of OJ, but you all already know that story.
Better behaved than others, but they all deserve a loving home.
They do. A West Michigan shelter is trying to be honest about a pup up for adoption who, frankly, just isn't the best.
News 8's Megan Bunchman introduces us to Link.
Well, thanks to a funny post on the Noah Project's Facebook page, the 10-year-old Chihuahua Link is closer to having a home.
If you're looking for your next sweet, cuddly fur baby, you'll want to keep looking.
He's a little grumpy old man.
Because Link, who has been at the no-kill shelter Noah Project in Fruitport Township for the past 80 days, is described online as a demon. Yes, a demon.
He wasn't able to be picked up. He wouldn't allow you to play with him. He just wanted to.
Hey, at least they're being honest. Could you imagine if I had to put an ad out for OJ, which would never, ever happen? How I would have to describe OJ? But they're like, listen, if you adopt this dog, you're going to have some problems. This is a little demon dog.
To love you on his terms. So he was very difficult.
A viral Facebook post is making its rounds this week after the shelter took a different approach in pitching this puppy, saying, quote, not many people want a 10-year-old neurotic, old, ornery man. Every day when we see him, we feel the wrath of his hellscape. We greet him with a soft and gentle tone. It doesn't help, but the silly post may just strike a chord with a future family.
We've had some great news. So we've had 4 applications come in for him. And we had one couple that's very interested that came and did a meet and greet with him yesterday, and they're coming back today to meet him again and possibly follow through the adoption.
Executive Director Michelle Arndt says this pup isn't all bad. If you need an excuse to not have people over, perhaps your in-laws who have overstayed their welcome, Link is your answer. The post also says that if you adopt Link, you can cancel your Ring subscription because when people hear the, quote, demonic entity coming from inside your house, they'll run away in fear.
He wags his tail and he acts happy, but he just doesn't want you to pick him up or be touched. He does want to be by you, so he'll sit by you. You just can't pick him up.
So if you're looking for a 10-year-old pup who will, quote, probably live at least another 10 years out of pure spite and hatred for everyone, and he doesn't get swooped up tonight, this pup may just be the missing link for your family.
Now, the Noah Project is a community-funded nonprofit shelter. It's also a no-kill shelter. So even if Link isn't who you were looking for to adopt, donations and even...
I died laughing when I saw that. Look, we're telling it like it is. This dog is moody. It's ornery. It'll bite you. It's going to piss off your friends. It's going to tear your shit up. It's demonic. Oh, I died laughing. And here came all the applications. Tiffany said, damn the wrath. Something else. Christina said, did he get adopted? Yes, he did. He did. He did. Had he not been adopted, I would have brought him here to play with OJ. Here you go, OJ. We have issues when people come over and they bring their animals because OJ does not play well with others. We had a neighbor who had adopted a German Shepherd, and well, you all know that breed. Here comes OJ, claws out, fangs, and whipped the shit out of that dog. I was like, well, looks like we're going to have to pay for a vet bill, but the dog survived. When my son comes over with his Aussie Doodle, he's like, make sure your cat's put up. So, OJ goes to the bedroom, and you can hear him. I'm like, damn it, OJ. Calm down. Calm down. I'll let you beat up me and Daddy in a second. All right, guys, this has been a great show. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the families of Libby and Abby. Thank you for having an open mind and going through everything, showing your own opinion, not being an echo chamber, just being super cool every day, being my friend, and I'm your friend as well. You have to admit, we have the best community on the streets. Thank you for all the donations to the channel. And tomorrow, we are having a show about Caitlin Conley. Take a second to look it up. We have a special guest coming on to talk about it. She is in jail for, well, I think it's for manslaughter. I have to look at my notes again. There was a mistrial, hung jury, jurors that couldn't agree, but for the murder of her boyfriend's mother, Mary Yoder. Not only do Mary's family think she's innocent, but a lot of other people. It's a very interesting case, and I want your take on it, as always. So if I don't see you in Discord, Facebook, anywhere around Al Gore's internet, I'll see you back here tomorrow, same place, same time. You guys are the absolute best. Thank you.